G'day, I'm Mark from Tasmanian Off-Road Adventures. This YouTube video is a little bit different to what I'm used to doing. I'm not featuring a customer's decked out four-wheel drive. I'm actually comparing two very popular four-wheel drive air compressors. The first compressor is the Thumper air compressor from 4wd Drive Super Centre. I bought this a couple of months ago for my Land Cruiser because the old compressor in that had died. I've only used it probably 3 or 4 times, but I've been pretty impressed with it. It's much quicker than the old compressor I did have, but that's probably not saying a whole lot. In the Hilux here, I've actually got an ARB air locker in the rear. So I've got an under bonnet ARB air compressor, which is exactly the same compressor that comes in the box, the portable compressor that ARB do. It's just this one's mounted under the bonnet instead. I've got the tyre inflation kit with it to help pump up the tyres as well as operate the air locker. Now for this comparison, I'll be using this ARB pressure gauge for both compressors. The ARB compressor I've got here doesn't actually come with a gauge. The Thumper one does, but I'm not 100% sure how accurate it is. So to keep things fair, I'm going to be using the same gauge, pressure gauge, for both compressors. Now, just test conditions. On the Hilux here, I've got 16 by 7 inch steel wheels, and I've got Cooper 265 75/16 tyres. So fairly standard, fairly standard tyre for a mildly lifted ute. I'm going to be going from 16 psi to 40 psi. So 16 psi is what I would normally run on the beach, and 40 psi is what I'd normally run on the road. So I'll have the engine running for both compressors. The ARB one, I have to have the engine running. It will not run without it. And I'll have the engine running just idling as well for the Thumper compressor to keep that fair as well. So as much as I can, I'm going to be testing each compressor under exactly the same conditions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the ARB compressor first, and then after I've done that, I'm going to give the Thumper a crack. Rightio, that's the ARB compressor test done. Each tyre came in at about 2 minutes 25 seconds. They were pretty much all even, around about what I expected. So now I'm going to give the Thumper air compressor a go and just see how quick that can do it. Rightio, that's the Thumper test done. Once again, all 4 tyres came out to be around about the same. On this compressor they came out to be about 3 minutes and 20 seconds each, which is about 55 seconds slower than what the ARB air compressor was. It's only about 4 minutes all up, so if you're out in the bush or on the beach, it's probably not that big a deal. I've got to say, I was a little bit surprised at how much quicker the ARB compressor was. From what I'd read on the internet and reviews and all that sort of thing, I actually expected the Thumper to be quicker, but it wasn't. So a little bit surprised there. Just one other thing with the Thumper is I have read a fair bit about how hot the hose gets at the compressor end. Now, when I pumped up using the ARB air compressor, I did feel the hose and it sort of felt fairly warm. When I finished with the Thumper, I actually grabbed hold of the hose and realised that you can't hold your hand on it too long, otherwise you'll literally burn yourself. It gets really, really hot. What I'd actually like to do is I'd like to do another version of this test. I'd like to use some bigger tyres. So on my Land Cruiser I've got 33 by 12.5 by 15 inch mud train tyres. So I'd like to do the test on those bigger tyres and also just measure the temperature of the hose. It might not be that big a deal, but I'm slightly concerned that the hose will get that hot on the Thumper that it actually slips off its fitting. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I'd just like to test it just out of interest's sake. So hopefully in a couple of weeks I'd like to have version 2 of this test up on YouTube. In the meantime, thanks for watching.